Halloween
Forever.
Greetings, boys and ghouls. Welcome to Halloween is Forever, our first ever mini episode. Pretty excited about this one. Not terrifically excited to talk about the movie, but
I feel like I'm having like maniacal thoughts right now.
yeah,
Maniacal laugh.
yeah. We'll talk about that in a second and what Meg did, and she chose to punish us. I don't know what we've done to deserve it, but we are going to jump into that here in a second. But real quick, before we do, I wanted to explain a little bit about what we're looking to accomplish on this episode. First of all, hope you got a chance to check out episode number 1. We had an absolute blast recording that and talking about camp slashers. If you haven't listened to episode 1 already, I would suggest you go back and take a listen to it, or at the very least, prepare yourself for spoilers abound, because what we're going to do is we're going to this is kind of an idea for how we're going to do mini episodes moving forward. So we're going to do mini episodes in our off weeks. We're going to do one kind of main episode a month where we pick a big topic and we each pick our movies to defend, and we argue and scream at each other and all that sort of thing, just kind of like we did with Camp Slashers. But this episode, these mini episodes, we're going to do a couple other fun things. One of which is we're going to pick the person who won, the person whose movie reigned supreme, if you will, in the main episode gets to pick a film, whatever they want, and the other two have to watch it and discuss it, right? So, again, spoiler alert if you haven't listened to episode number 1, but Meg won in episode number 1. She's
Ric Flair woo time.
1-0, undefeated, dirtiest player in the game, the Nature Boy.
That wasn't her nickname before.
No,
it was Peckerhead.
Yeah, she earned the nickname dirtiest player in the game. Peckerhead Meg at it again. Picking just a downright unpleasant film for us to watch, which we'll talk about here in a second. But before we do that, like I said, she won episode number 1. But couple of things. One, if you haven't listened to it already, go ahead and go back over there, give it a listen, and then tell us what you think. Did we get it right? Did Meg deserve to win? Is she a dirty, rotten cheater? Was I unfavorably was I persecuted for my choices? I believe that to be the case. Tell me if you agree. And then also drop us a line either on social media, so at Halloween's Forever on Instagram, at Hallow Forever on Twitter, Halloween's Forever on Facebook, and then if you feel like you want to drop us a line via email, halloweenisforeverpod@gmail, and let us know if you got some good ideas for topics for future episodes, because the first thing that we're going to do here is Steve was so kind as to set up a little kind of spinning wheel for us. We put all of our topics, all of our ideas that we've gathered from social media so far. Some folks have already been weighing in for some of those, and we put them onto a kind of working document that we have, and then Steve put them on this fun wheel, and then we spun them, and we got 3 options, right? So we have 3 from our long list of potential topics, and we're going to put this out to all of our friends and listeners on social media. And we want you to pick, of these 3, what you prefer for episode number 2. So here's what we came up with. Ready? I don't know if there's some sort of really sweet drum roll audio and there's something, I don't know, to add some
post-production.
Yeah. It is. So here's what we came up with. First one I thought was really interesting. Future directors and writers. Steve, this was one you came up with. Tell us what you're looking at with this one.
So my thought behind this is not necessarily directors that we think are going to have a big future, but this is more looking at past works. So you have directors like Peter Jackson, who got started with Dead Alive and Bad Taste, and went on to direct one of the biggest franchises ever in the Lord of the Rings series. Then you also have like Sam Raimi. And then you're seeing something of a similar emergence with there was you see a lot of people get like short films on the internet that get a lot of buzz, a lot of viral views, and they wind up turning into, you know, bigger name directors, or they land a bigger studio film from that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just possible we may be looking at past works, which is kind of apropos for this episode.
No, extremely apropos for this mini-sode, which we'll jump into in a second. But I think that's a rad one. That's kind of my favorite out of the gate. I'm not sure yet. We just came up with these a few minutes ago, so I haven't got much of a chance to kind of mill it around yet. But my second one, which I think I came up with, I don't remember, or maybe Meg did, religious horror. So anything kind of religious themed, there's a million different directions we can go in that. That's kind of one of my favorite subgenres. So tons of opportunity there. And then lastly, love it or hate it, found footage is our third one. So feeling pretty good. I'm a big found footage guy personally. I
don't
like
mind
some
them.
of my favorite
like
movies are found footage. You know, they can be done well. They can be absolute hot garbage, obviously, just like anything else. But for whatever reason, they seem to be kind of polarizing. Is that just me, or does it feel like some people? Yeah.
Yeah, when they're good, they can be really good. But like when they're bad, they're usually just boring as hell.
Right. Yeah, they can drag and be very boring. And yeah, when you don't have some of those kind of traditional, you know, plot devices to bounce off of, you know, when it's kind of that found footage setting, I can see why. You know, and listen, I'm a big Cloverfield guy. And I will absolutely defend that to the day I die, although I'm not going to pick that one if it comes up. All right, so those are our three choices. So we're going to put those out on social media and vote. Yeah, so we'll take a look for that in the coming days here. So cool. Now, that said, let's jump into this just real feel-good romp that Meg threw us down here. Meg, do you want to introduce the movie that you chose?
Yes. Holy cow. So the strange thing about the Johnsons is what I chose. Because when I had to think about this, we were all going back and forth, and I kind of narrowed it. I kind of was like, maybe I should just throw a curveball and let's do a short film. Let's do really, really something that's going to be like a hard hitter. It's only going to take half hour to watch, but it will fuck with your head. You're going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to feel scared. Holy shit. And this is my favorite summary. A dark domestic horror drama about the ties that bind and the ties that really bind.
I saw that as well. I was like, what in the fuck does that mean? Why are you being so cryptic, Ari Aster?
Yeah. So written and directed by Ari Aster, who we now have talked about already, that went on to do Midsommar and Hereditary, which also amazing films. So yeah, I really felt like I thought this was a good movie, just because Brian, you hadn't seen it, and I was like,
this was a first time watch for me. I had heard of it.
I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to find something you haven't watched.
No, there's pretty much if you go with something that's been made in like the last decade, there's a huge chance I haven't seen it. But that's not true. I watch a lot of like Shudder exclusives and stuff. But yeah, this is one that I think I like heard about, popped up a little bit in some of those lists of like the most like disturbing films of the last decade or whatever. And usually those types of films are not necessarily the ones I gravitate towards, but I have seen this, did not know what it was about, just went in blind. And, I feel like I need to take a shower directly after.
Yeah, you do.
And specifically a shower, not a bath. Never a bath.
Never a bath.
Ever,
and don't lock the door. Do not lock the door.
You've ruined baths for me, Meg.
Yeah. Yeah, and so Steve and I were talking about this film, and we're both like, I think I randomly caught it maybe on a podcast, but I had never heard of it before. Like, Steve, you were like, no one talks about this film, and I felt the same way, because I'm like, I've never had a conversation outside of me bringing it up here, but it has a lot of actors that have really only done short films or like really small roles in like movies. So I felt like it was a really cool twist, but yeah, I thought it was brilliant. As much as I felt really uncomfortable watching it, I still had this appreciation for what they did. So I don't know if we should break down and give all the spoilers. Of course, that's, I think now our thing is to spoil everything.
Yeah, probably should throw a spoiler. If you haven't seen it, pause it. Go throw it on. It's only 30 minutes long.
Yeah.
If you just want to feel real bad, throw it on real quick for about a half hour and cut and come back and check in with us. But yeah, I would say, do you want to talk a little bit about just like the general themes and overall kind of plot synopsis maybe, and then we'll kind of dig into it.
Yeah. So I think even like the opening scene, I think really sets the tone for talking about what the overall theme is about things being really taboo. And, you have this really awesome dad who's trying to allow his son to understand that masturbation is okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Have those conversations that no one wants to have when you're dealing with a teenage boy for the first time. But we come to find out that while he's doing this, he's masturbating to his dad.
Yeah.
And so he has had
not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
That
so
threw me for a loop in the first 2 minutes of the film.
It sets the stage that like we have a son who's obsessed with his dad completely, which I think that's the only flaw to this, that the only part that I feel like it could have been longer on is like, how did that kid get to the point where he is now obsessed with his dad? Yeah. But other than that, we're just dealing with a situation. Okay, son's obsessed with his dad. Now we fast forward to 14 years later. The son is getting married. Him and his dad throughout the entire year. And we come to find out that really the son is manipulating his dad. He is gaslighting his dad. He is making it out to be like he is not in any way, shape, fucked up at all. Mm-hmm. And you see that whole taboo thing comes back into play because at the wedding, you notice the mom sees it going on. Like she knows something's always been going on, but she's never talked about it, which goes back, kind of almost reverses what his dad talked about. He basically was like, if you talk about things, it's not taboo, but when you don't talk about things, it is taboo. And so it kind of starts spiraling from there. And you can tell his dad, like he was such a bright character from the beginning. And then you could see when he was at the wedding, how just like defeated and destroyed of a human being he is. Like he knows all of this stuff is just wrong and he doesn't know what to do because his son is like almost like this god, like powerful figure to him. I mean, for him,
Those first couple minutes and really the first 3 scenes are probably really, really excellent examples of show don't tell in filmmaking. Yeah. Because you go through the scene where he gets caught masturbating, but then it goes to like, it's a slow zoom in on the photo of his dad. Mm-hmm. So like there's no announcement. It's just like, oh, you have to put 1 and 2 together. Then it cuts to the scene. They're taking a family portrait and the son's sitting there. He can't take his eyes off his dad. And he has his hands in his pockets the entire time. Yeah. So you imagine there's something else going on there. And then like Meg said, as soon as they smash cut to the wedding, the dad goes from smiling 14 years later. He has the most dour expression, like 1,000-yard stare while, his son is getting married and everybody else around him is happy. Yeah. So it's a real great show don't tell and a progression of like, something's happened.
Yeah, there's almost nothing graphic at all about this movie, really, when you look at it. But the performances and you can definitely see some of those kind of gleams of, because this is 2011, right? So Ari Aster really hit on the scene with Hereditary in 2018. So, but you can see those kind of little glimmers of that like building sense of dread that he's now famous for coming out in this, because there's nothing graphic at all. It's just the performances, it's just the cinematography, it's just the framing, and it makes your imagination do all the heavy lifting, which is oftentimes way worse, right?
Yeah, and the sound design. The sound design is excellent.
I was going to add that because I think that I aided in that, like designing what's actually happening in this film. I think that was like the big part of it. Yeah,
I think it's great because it is a short film, right? It's 30 minutes, so you can't really spend a lot of time setting things up. But he does it in a way where there's no ambiguity. Like it's weird because the one I'm going to say criticism, because it's not a criticism. I think it's just the nature of a short film. Is it's really surface level what they're trying to do, but it does not make it any less effective. Like they are flipping the common roles of, more typical sexual abuse relationships on their heads, right? And so they're flipping, they're role reversing, right, in a lot of ways. So the son, who's Isaiah, right, he's kind of like, like Meg said, the most effective scene to me was when he, on New Year's Day, after, this like horrific event in the bathroom, the dad comes, like super effective scene. Then the dad comes downstairs and he's like sitting down there waiting to just berate him and start gaslighting him and explain that like it's his fault too and all this stuff. It's like,
I don't want to ignore though that
like
the scene, like while we know the father is now getting raped by his son, is that the mom, like I felt like that, like cutting to her, just slowly turning everything up. I was like, chills. You're just like, holy cow.
And that's like a fairly, like I said, it's kind of on the nose, because that's a pretty common trope I've seen before in, films, not necessarily horror films, but like any films where you see like some manner of like sexual abuse. You see turn the radio up so you can't hear and you can pretend it's not happening. Like that's a pretty common trope, I feel like, but it was done so effectively. And also like the weird, like what is it, like a medical procedural show she's watching on TV was clearly like shot for this, and it like felt like strangely like a Tim and Eric sketch, like for a second. It's just very disjointed and disturbing. I don't know, but
so Ari Aster actually has like some comedic shorts as well. Like a lot of his earlier work is also comedic, so that's why like that medical procedural show feels out of place, and also the self-help tape. Which
that definitely sticks out. Yeah,
which I believe he's actually on the cover as the and is the voice of the self-help guy.
Cool. I didn't know that.
Now that you say that, I remember seeing the guy and going, that looks like a guy straight out of a Tim and Eric episode.
Right, yeah. So he has this very disgusting, like dark sense of humor as well.
Yeah.
That you can see in other films. And just another short note about the film is it's actually his thesis film from when he was in the graduate program for the American Film Institute.
I saw that.
So it's technically a student film that we're watching.
So he definitely didn't pass.
Hard fail.
It was just such an uncomfortable film from beginning to end. This just occurred to me, and I was waiting for you to acknowledge it, Meg, or if this was some sort of like sick fucking joke. But we're gonna release this episode the week of Father's Day, and it just occurred to me, and I was like, "Is this a joke she's slow playing, or is this just a horrifying coincidence?"
I think it's a horrifying coincidence, which is just so perfect. I'm like, happy Father's Day.
I know, Jesus Christ.
What's he do?
Poor Zaddy. Let's do this.
Yeah, so it's definitely, you see a lot of the things, and interestingly enough, like the things that a lot of horror fans think of as like some of the, I don't know, like quintessential elements now of like an A24 film. I see poking out in here as well, because a lot of times, a lot of people, especially just like, horror's experiencing like quite a resurgence right now, obviously with, Parasite winning, Best Picture and all this stuff. A lot of people, I think of A24, it's like, you're thinking of Ari Aster, right? Because those are the movies you're thinking of. And it's just like, it's crazy. Yeah. Almost not quite a decade before, 7-8 years before, you see a lot of those things poking out, a lot of those sensibilities peeking out.
I think when you realize that it is Ari Aster, I think like some of the things he did there is like closer to even Midsummer, where it's like that really slow burn. Like, I mean, Hereditary ultimately I think was just like a lot of hit after hit, whereas Midsummer I think was like slow burn, but then it went crazy, so I think he has this vibe of like, he likes that slow, something's happening, you feel uncomfortable about it the entire time, and then boom.
Yeah, and the sound design reinforces it, because Midsummer, I remember watching that going like, if you had a different backing track to this, you could play the scene for a laugh. You know what I mean? And I feel like there was some scenes in this film too that like them when they're all standing there, taking the wedding picture. I feel like if you would have put like a silly backing track to that, like it could have been played for a weird dark laugh almost.
Yeah.
But like the sound design, it just made your skin crawl.
Yeah. And I think, we're talking about like the resurgence of horror, and it's like usually arty horror that people are talking about. But like a lot of it has a lot of domestic tones to it. So like this film is all about like what goes on behind closed doors, at night, what people don't see. Hereditary is also very, within the home, and same with also we're talking like Get Out and Us, also very domestic horror of like what happens when people kind of are unmasked by themselves.
Yeah.
Totally. And I found it interesting, and I don't know if I really have any elaboration, but I feel like this coming out in 2011, like we didn't see a lot of like such a complex movie structure around like a Black family, which so I feel like it was really before its time, especially him thinking about like this is in school, like he was doing it for this program. And I just found it to be pretty profound there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, according to the Wikipedia page, he was just saying like the race of the family doesn't matter just because this could happen to anybody. I think it's just an example of he's just willing to hire Black actors.
I just think it's another layer to it because he made that choice, and I think it takes you out of what you're used. So not only are we not used to always talking about like incest publicly or like these really behind closed door things that happen, but like now we're adding this layer of like we should be talking about it more intersectionally as well. And I thought that's why I like made that point to say that.
Oh yeah, for sure, because there's always that issue of like art can be created, but once art is out there, it takes on a different its own life subjective to the viewer. Like we mentioned it, and it's a lesser point to what you were saying, Meg, but like the medical drama, you can read into that a little more if you want, because the entire time the mother is watching it, you hear the doctors in the background screaming for like 70 milligrams, 700 more milligrams. You hear that repeated phrase of like more milligrams, and you could interpret that as like she's medicated herself to avoid the situations in her home.
Oh, totally. I'm glad you pointed that out.
I don't know if he did that intentionally though. That could just be me reading into something. So like you're saying, Meg, reading into the casting of the family creates its own narrative, subjective to the viewers. So yeah, just something interesting to think about.
One other thing I may have read into too much, I noticed this when I was poking around on Wikipedia earlier, is the father, Sidney, played by Billy Mayo, which was the only actor I really recognized. Like, I feel like I had definitely seen him in things before. He plays a poet, or he's a writer of some sort, right? Obviously, he writes like novels or something like that. But then at some point, his Isaiah, the son, refers to him as a poet. He was like, I would have expected something more eloquent from a poet or something like that. And and I don't remember which one, I think his mother, Ari Aster, one of Ari Aster's parents was a poet.
Oh.
And I was, so I thought that was like, is there, I don't know, I can't imagine that's something that needs to be read into too much, but I just found it a little bit interesting. I think that's just him
being darkly humorous. Like he's just being gross and upsetting.
Mom's going to watch this.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought as well. But yeah, it was, Oh, one other interesting thing, again, poking around on IMDb and everything. I was looking at everyone out, all the rest of the, I thought the performances were really, really good.
Oh yeah.
Like especially the grown up Isaiah, like he was just super terrified. Like he was just so creepy. The gaslighting scene just like threw me for a loop. He hasn't been in a ton of stuff. He's been in a couple of like short films. I think does a little bit more stage acting. Same thing with Angela Bullock, who is Joan, who is the wife and mother. She's in a lot of things actually. She's in a couple things that are in pre-production now, I think, but I think primarily a stage actor. But the young man who plays young Isaiah, his name's Carlin Jeffrey, I believe. He's now like a star in a Disney Channel comedy.
Oh God!
Oh no!
which is it's called, I think it's called Ant Farm, but it's like an acronym, ANT, which I have no idea what that stands for. But he also is a rapper. and his rap name is Lil C Note, which I thought was just a terrible
I am totally
rap
gonna
name.
creep him on Instagram. Oh, he's
Yeah.
a father. He's a
Yeah.
father.
Well, I was just like, okay, not an introductory scene that probably you don't see a lot of Disney
Right.
Channel actors going down that path, but yeah, I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, usually they
That
do the
is.
wild stuff after they get out of Disney, not before
I
they
know.
get
I
it.
was going to say, like, do you think when he auditioned for Disney Channel show, he showed them that
No.
performance?
No.
I think it's probably unlikely.
I'm really
but-
proud of this. Look at it. I mean, it was a great performance still. I felt
Yeah,
like
yeah.
even just that pause and being like, Dad, I love you.
Well, in the first scene, like,
it's just so creepy.
Of course, and this was Ari Aster, like, this is just brilliant the way he did it, is me going in blind, not knowing almost anything about the film. I was scared for the kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, in the first scene, you're like, what is happening? This dad is too nice. He's like too understanding. He's taking it, he's like kind of hammering it home too much. Is there something else that's going to happen? Really don't want to see. And then, yeah, it just throws you for a loop. But
Yeah, you confuse like just suburban, khaki wearing pants for like menacing.
yeah. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, this guy's too straight laced. He's up to something.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, we're used to like older men being really creepy.
You stared at an extra long amount of time at us when you said that, Meg.
This is my life.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's one of those movies I very much doubt I'm ever going to watch it again. I'm not unhappy that I watched it. I'm glad I watched it, but it made me feel real bad. So I want to thank Meg for that.
You're welcome.
Just coming out. So I was wondering as I'm watching this, I'm thinking, is this a film that, obviously I don't know what's coming, that has like a really, a really powerful moment or message, which I think it does? Or is this Meg just like, willing some sort of just dominance on it? Is this just a play where she just
This is
wants
my
to
big dick move.
Yeah, she's like, I'm going to force you to watch this horribly uncomfortable movie.
It was a flex.
Yeah, it was a flex.
Well, I think it's funny. I think because I just discovered this movie within the last probably 4 months.
Yeah.
And so I'm still a little new to it. But and I just like when I was thinking about it, and I don't know what switched. I was like, maybe I should just look up something that, again, I was like, what would Brian have not seen? And let's what would be something a little off the wall that might be a good conversation. And I think ultimately I was like, I recalled this film and I'm like, it made me feel so bad. And I mean, there's other things that have made me feel more bad, but it made me feel real bad.
Yeah, it just ruined my afternoon. So I hope you're happy. No, it was super interesting. I'm, like I said, glad I watched it. Not necessarily something I'm going to throw on in the background while I'm, on a Saturday night, but it was.
It's not one of those classics that you're like, kids, I need you to watch this.
Yeah, I'm not throwing it on like I throw on Demon Wind. You know what I mean? Or The Fog. Those are my ones I like. Comfort movie watches almost. Definitely not going to go into that category. But cool. Any final thoughts on the film?
Not really. Just go check it out on YouTube, and then also check out see if you can find any Ari Aster's comedy shorts as well. I know one of them's up there. It's called TDK Really Works. It's pretty bizarre. I saw that
on Wikipedia, but yeah, I didn't know that one's on YouTube either. So I'll check it out. Yeah, that's a good call out. I forgot to say this. You can see this for free on YouTube. Just search the name and it'll pop right up. So definitely worth a watch. But just if you really want to ruin your night.
Yeah. Be prepared to ruin your day.
Yeah. But I also think it's one of those things like Serbian film comes to mind, of which we're not going to go into, but it's like one of those things like you should watch it once, maybe.
I have still not watched Serbian film.
Don't.
I have not. Yeah, that's what I keep hearing from people. They're like, when you get those lists of like most disturbing movies, and then some of them you see them on there, like, no, I've watched that. It's not that bad. I've watched that. It's not that bad. But then when you get to that one, anytime it comes up in conversation, people are like, yeah, you could probably just skip that for the rest of your life. And
I feel like if you watch Serbian film and then watch this, you're not going to feel as bad. But I'm not going to lie. This is just a sidebar note. I watched Serbian film a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. and I was literally fucked up for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I felt gross thinking about it. I was just like, I can't even this, but it's stuck in my head. This is so fucked up. So traumatized.
Yeah. I'm more of like a munchies guy. I'm less Serbian film, more like, munchies, or like I said, yeah. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Meg, for ruining our afternoon.
Boom, that's what I'm here for.
That's what Peckerhead Meg does. She ruins your fucking day.
She threw us all into the lake of a strange thing about the Johnsons.
She really did, without a floaty, just zero floaties, zero pool noodles.
Hey, sink or swim, baby.
No, it was a super interesting first pick. So I am going to make you pay for it.
I'm so excited.
Whenever I inevitably assert my dominance in the main show, and I'm gonna pick just something. I already have a couple in the hopper that I'm thinking about. That's
that's a beer term. Nice. I like it. Got it.
I've given up on podcast terminology. I clearly don't know it. Well, excellent, guys. This was a lot of fun. I would say. Go check out social media. We're going to put up a little post, a little poll, something along those lines. Remember, we're going to future director writers, religious horror, or found footage for episode number 2. So with that being said, if there's not anything else, thank you again for joining us. For myself, Brian, for Meg and Steve, this has been our Minisode episode number 1 of the Minisode episode, or whatever you want to call it. So we'll be back at you next week with another Minisode, and drop us a line on social media if you've got any ideas of what you want us to chat about. Right on?
Dope.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.